Alright guys, so it's a pretty exciting day. We're gonna start taking the front end off the Z. That way we can start getting to the engine. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so this video is gonna be about taking the front end off the Z. It's gonna be probably a little bit different for yours because mine came from a salvage yard. So the bumper is only held on by like 3 clips, so that part I can't really show you. But everything else I could show you. Could kind of walk through how to take off the front bumper, but mine's already off because it was literally hanging on by 2 clips. So let's get to taking stuff off. Alright, so first to take off your front bumper, there's going to be a couple screws in here that screw up into your fender and attach the bumper to the fender, so you're going to need to take those out. There's 2 of them. And then there's also 6 clips that go into each one of these holes. Those are just plastic clips that you need to take out. A lot of you probably have a splash guard, so there's going to be a couple clips on the bottom connecting the bumper to the splash guard that you need to take out. And then again, there should be a bracket right here that mounts from the headlight to the fender, and then the bumper mounts to that. So that's how you take off the front bumper. Sorry I can't really show you because I don't have it, and as you can see, there's supposed to be a plastic piece right here that connects the headlight to this. So that's something I'm gonna have to replace. After that, what you'll want to do is take off the headlights. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off this bolt right here. There's going to be one down here and then another one right here. So these 3 bolts, and then the headlight should pop right out. And after that, we'll go ahead and just try to wiggle this guy out. It'll be hitting this bracket here. So then the last thing you need to do to get this unhooked is unhook this little plug down here. Might need a screwdriver to do it, makes it a little bit easier. So after you unplug that plug right here, you can see it's at the bottom of the headlight. Then the whole assembly should pop out. So what I'm going to do now is take off this front bash bar. So it looks like there's 2 12mm bolts, a 10mm bolt, and the same thing on the bottom, 2 12s and a 10. So you'll do that on each side, and then this part should come off and we could get to the next step. One thing I like to do is put the bolts back where they were. That way they're easier to keep track of. And if I am not able to do that, what I'm going to do is get some plastic baggies and put them in there and then label them. That way there's going to be a lot of bolts taking all this stuff apart, so that way you don't get them all mixed up and lose them. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this air box. That way we get some room in here. See if there's anything else going on underneath this area. Then drain the radiator, and that way we could start pulling this whole piece off. I'm not too sure if you could just take off these bolts and the ones on the other side and this whole panel come off, or if you have to take off this whole front cover first, but we will find out. We also have to get this oil cooler or whatever it is off the front of here and disconnect this hood release, so that way we could get this whole front piece off. So we're going to go ahead and take off the air box. Mine's already halfway unbolted, so I just have to unplug it and take it off, and then we'll get to doing the coolant. Alright, now we're going to drain the coolant. So you come under here and you should see this little drain plug here. So you just take a Phillips head screwdriver, undo this, and it should drain out all the coolant. So we'll get to going on that. Make sure when you're draining it that you take off the radiator cap, or else you won't, for one thing, it'll take forever and you won't be fully draining the coolant out. So make sure you do that, that way it drains more efficiently. Once this is done, we'll start taking off the hoses and trying to take off this front panel. Alright, now that the coolant's drained, what we're actually going to do is remove the coolant bottle, just so we have some more space. What this is actually the power steering cooler. So we're going to remove that, that way we could disconnect the lines that connect to this power steering cooler and try to drain that, and then we'll get to the next step. Alright, now with the coolant bottle out of the way, you could see the power steering lines right here. They run through here to right here and then out to this cooler. So we're going to disconnect the lines that are right behind here. I might unplug one of these ones first just to see if we could get it to drain, that way we don't get power steering fluid everywhere. Alright guys, as you can see, getting that power steering cooler off was pretty difficult. The lines were on there pretty damn good. I'm going to let this drain for a little bit, and then we're going to take off these coolant hoses, the top one and the bottom one, and then we'll start trying to take this whole front piece off. Alright, now I'm going to take off the radiator hoses. Then you just pull it straight off. I'm going to have to put you down because it's hard to do with just one hand. But I'm going to pull off this hose, and then we're going to get underneath and pull off the second hose. Now I'm going to pull off this bottom hose, and then we should be able to start pulling this front support away from the body. Alright, so I had to take these bolts back out. These are the bash bar bolts, because they actually hold this whole front section onto the car. So I took those back out, put them in a bag and labeled them. I think I'm going to take off this hood latch. You just take off these 3 bolts, and then we'll see what we need to do to get the cable disconnected. So let's get this hood latch off first, and then we'll take off those 2 bolts and then the 2 bolts over there. These 3 bolts are 3 14 millimeters. Alright, to get this off the rest of the way, there's just this little hook here. If you could see this little gold piece, you just undo that piece from the hook. Might be easier with a screwdriver. So I'm going to push it forward. And then push the cable out. So now it's disconnected. Now you just need to pry that out of the hole. And there you go, it's disconnected. So just to show you a little bit better, you'll pull back on this spring right here, and then you'll use a screwdriver to get it out the bottom area over here, and then you just pry the plastic piece out of this little piece right here. Then it comes right off. Alright guys, it looks like the last thing I need to do before taking out these last 4 bolts is take off all the wires that are attached. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some painter's tape, and I'm going to undo all these wires and try to label them as best as possible so that I know where they go when they go back on. I don't want to have to be guessing. Usually it's pretty easy because one plug will only fit in one place, but just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and take each one off, probably just number it 1 through whatever, and that way when I go to put it back on, it all goes back into the right spot. So I'm going to get these wires off, and then we'll finish taking off the last 4 bolts. So while I was looking through this last bit, about to take off these last two bolts, I realized that the air conditioner core is right in front of the radiator. So we're going to go ahead and take this radiator out. That way we could take that core, pull it away from this area. I'm not sure exactly how to get that off yet, so we're just going to take the radiator out now that it's already drained. Pretty sure all we have to do now, since we took off all the hoses and everything, is just undo these little clips. They're just hand clips that you lift up, and they have the radiator mounts on them. So we're going to undo that and just try to pull the radiator up. We might need to take off the fans if it doesn't clear, but I'm going to try to see if we can clear it without taking the fans off. Alright guys, that's not going to work, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off this front plastic shroud. There's 2 bolts here, 2 bolts right here, here, and on the other side, and maybe a couple on the bottom. I'll let you know if I find any down there. So we're going to take that off and see if we can pull everything through the front. Alright guys, so you do not need to remove these bolts at all. You just need to remove this plastic front cover, and then you got to disconnect the air conditioner lines to this. That way we could get the whole rest of the radiator out, and then we'll have the whole space ready to take the engine out. In order to remove this AC core out of the way, first you want to discharge it. This one wasn't charged in the first place. Be careful, because refrigerant is very dangerous. But once it's discharged, if you have it discharged already, you're going to want to get some of these quick disconnect tools. I got these. They work on fuel lines and AC lines. So what you want to do is you want to slip it over the line, and then you push it in, and then you got to wiggle the... Let's see if I could show you guys. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but... So once you got the quick disconnect tool in there, you're going to want to push it into the line so that it separates it. Then you'll just want to twist it and pull. Be careful not to damage your line. There you go. Once it's in there good enough, you just twist and pull while you're pushing in at the same time, and it'll pop out, and we can take this whole AC core out, and then the whole front's exposed. So that's how you take the front end off a 350Z. I've never done that before, but it was super easy. Did it without instructions or anything. It was just pretty straightforward about what you needed to take off. So if you liked the video, like and subscribe. I'm going to be taking out this engine next and putting in this engine over here in the corner. That one has 100,000 miles on it and supposedly runs, so keep your fingers crossed that we'll get this guy running in the next week or two. So we'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.